Hi, Sharks. It is Financial Sharktress, Galit Sadiq. Happy Money Monday. It has been a crazy Monday for me, um, and it really brought home the the idea and my dedication to having an emergency fund and having an FU fund. And I wanted to reiterate the importance of that and give you some tips on how to create one. So today, um, my pet, my bird, Merlin, was not feeling well, and he was acting strangely. And these are, of course, one of the things that you don't expect to happen in life. And we had to take him to the emergency vet to see what was going on with him. And if you don't have pet insurance, and even if you have pet insurance, but if you have a pet, you know that like emergency vet visits and just vet visits in general, especially when something is wrong, can be a huge financial stress and a huge financial burden. And I didn't want it, like, I never want to have to say, oh, we cannot get the treatment that we need, or we cannot do this thing because we don't have the money to do it. And so it is important to always have an emergency cushion, an emergency fund. And even if that emergency fund does not cover all of whatever happened, all of the emergency that popped up, it will at least cover some of it. And it will help you not feel like this month you're not going to be able to survive because this thing happened to you. So what happened today, thankfully, my Merlin is okay. My bird is okay. He he will need treatment and possibly has, a genetic disease, and it's treatable. But like, that is something that, if we didn't have the money saved away, if I didn't have a cushion, I would have not been comfortable saying, like, yes, of course, run him to the emergency vet. Yes, of course, do whatever testing they need. Because, testing is expensive. And if it had to come between, you know, I never want it to have to come between, like, my family being able to eat or being able to function or being able to pay rent or being able to, um, pay electricity or a utility bill, or the life of, in this case, my animal, the life of my family member, the medical procedure that has to be done, because it's not just pets, right? Like, I had a situation a couple months ago where I broke my toe, and that can put a huge financial stress. Like, even if you have insurance, and I have good insurance, but you still have copays and patient responsibilities, and there are so many things, and that's just like a random thing that happened. And you could break your toe at any time, or something else could happen. And I just want to make sure that you are preparing yourself for those kind of things, and that you're making sure that your family doesn't go into debt or have to choose between taking care of whatever emergency popped up, whether it be a health emergency, or your car breaks down, or you have to go last minute to somewhere, and you need the funds to do it. Like, maybe, I've had situations where a family member has passed away and I need to fly last minute somewhere. And I never want to make the decision of either not doing that thing or choosing between doing that thing and choosing between uh, succeed, just functioning in my life. So I am a huge proponent of paying yourself first, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. But paying yourself first, and also creating either what I call, either if you want to call it an emergency fund, or what I also do is call it an FU fund. And the reason I call it an FU fund is because I grew up in a toxic situation. I grew up in a childhood of domestic abuse, and I never want to have to function in toxicity in my life. And I felt that if I had a cushion, if I had a fund, that I could say F you anytime I was in a toxic situation, whether that be a toxic work environment or a toxic relationship or a toxic home environment or a toxic apartment. I wanted to make sure that I have the money to say F you and walk away. If you don't identify with that feeling, that's fine, and you can call it your emergency fund. And I also have an emergency fund because I think that's so necessary. So I always like to tell people to pay themselves first. And the way that I like to think about this is your bills, all of the things that you need to pay, send you a bill, and they are going to chase you for the money. And if you wait until after all of those things are paid, you are not going to have anything left over for you, because whatever is left over, you're going to spend on things that aren't intentional. It's just not going to be something that's in the forefront of your mind, because you're not going to get a bill from yourself to pay yourself. So what I like to do is choose a small amount. And I tell people to choose anywhere between $5 to $20 a week, whatever feels comfortable. So I think about this as like, if you're the type of person that goes out to eat lunch once a week and you're spending $10 a week on lunch, or you're going out to eat lunch 4 times a week, right? And you're spending $10 is kind of like a ridiculous price now. So like, let's be more realistic and say $15 a day on lunch. Then I want you to think about maybe reducing that by one day and taking that $15 that you would have put towards your lunch eating out, and put it towards yourself. And so I want you to pick an amount. If you don't feel comfortable with $15, pick $5 or $10. I started with $20, and I did this instead of every week, I did every other week, and then gradually increased it to every week. But the same thing you could do is $10 every week, because I really think that having it on a regular weekly schedule does help. And so if you have to do a lower amount to be able to do it weekly, I encourage that. And I think that any amount is, even if you're going to do $1, what I want you to do is go to nerdwallet.com, one of my favorite websites, find a high interest savings account. An online savings account is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. They do not have overhead fees that a brick and mortar has. So you want to choose one that is going to have, if you're not starting with a high minimum balance, or if you can find ones that have no minimum balance, but that are giving a good interest rate. And right now, interest rates, you can find savings accounts for like 4.5% interest. I will tell you that the average interest rate for a brick and mortar is less than 1%, less than 1%. So I know that I believe Chase is 0.001% on their savings accounts. So just think about, like, even if you can't identify the numbers in your brain, just think about how much larger 4% is than less than 1%, right? It's a huge difference. And when I first identified this, and I tell people this because it was like a wake up moment for me, a real like, whoa, what have I been doing this whole time? But the month that I moved my money, my savings from a brick and mortar into an online bank, a high yield, a high interest rate online bank account, savings account. It was just a regular savings account making, at the time, I believe it was 4% interest. But that month, I made more in interest than I had the entire previous year. So I want you to find one of those bank accounts, go to NerdWallet, compare. It can tell you like what requires low minimum balance or no minimum balance, um, ease of use. These are all things that you wanna make sure of. Make sure it's FDIC insured. Um, but as long as it's FDIC insured, I say go for it. Pick the one that is the most convenient for you, and set up an automatic transfer from your checking account into your savings account of the amount that you picked. And I want you to set it up for weekly. So if it's $5, set up a $5 transfer from your checking account into your savings account and just set it and let it go. Now, what I want you to do is like wait 2 months. If in 2 months' time you have not felt like you were missing money in your checking account, like you didn't have enough to pay bills, I want you to pick another small dollar amount and set up an additional automatic transfer. And you're going to keep doing this every 2 months until it starts to hurt. Until you feel like, okay, now I don't think I have enough money in my checking account to pay all of my bills, or I just went into the negative, or like it feels uncomfortable, right? And when that happens, I want you to just remove the last automatic transfer. Leave all the others and just remove the very last one that you added on. And what you will be doing is you will be paying yourself first, moving money out of your checking to make room for new money to enter your checking, and you will be learning and teaching yourself how to gradually be more intentional with the money that you do have in your checking account, right? Because it's going to be getting a little bit smaller each month or each 2 months. And so you will just start to become more intentional about how you use the money that's there. And I did this for myself. I think it was right after college, and I realized that I was saving almost $1,000 a month without even feeling it. And I just had taught myself to just choose better, right? So I was still going out with friends and out to eat or out for drinks, but I wasn't doing that every night because I was asking myself, hey, doing this is it putting me towards my goals, or is it removing me from reaching my goals? Is it making it harder for me to achieve things that I want to achieve? And that's the question that I want you to ask yourself when you are spending money. So for now, I want you to just set the first part in motion and start to create a small cushion for yourself. And whatever you want to call that cushion, that is totally fine, right? That is, you can name it whatever you want. And the cool thing about the online bank accounts that I have is that I get to actually give them names. And so I have checking accounts that say the things that I want to achieve, that say the goals that I want to achieve. But so name it your emergency fund, name it your FU fund if that feels good to you. Name it whatever you want to name it. I just want you to start today. And if that means that starting today is making an automatic transfer of $1 a week, do that. I just want you to get started because it's all about small amounts over a consistent period of time. And again, like, it's okay if the emergency that you have is higher than what you've saved up. You are still not dipping as far into your savings or in as far into your life, right? Like taking care of like the stuff that you have to do in life. If you have that cushion. So whatever that cushion is at the time of the emergency, that's fine. I just want you to have that cushion there so that when the emergency happens, it doesn't hurt as much. And if you've saved enough to not to have it not hurt you at all, amazing. That's the goal, right? That's the ultimate goal. And Irene, thank you for tuning in. And Irene says she does $20 a week. So I'm super impressed with that. I think that's a great amount. Um, and I hope that you all take this on and do as much as you can without it hurting. So, on that note, have an amazing Money Monday, and I will see you next week, Sharks. Bye bye.